more humans have one personality which is based on the most probable or the average of our moods. And that is something that I think we can control.
Alexi Kalamoudacos is a dear friend and one of the brightest and most beautiful minds you will see on this channel. His approach of deep self-analysis, continuous learning, and trying to understand patterns in human behavior have made an influence not only on myself, but on dozens of people around him.
Do you think it's possible to even know that you are with the right partner romantically? And what I mean by that is some people say, when you know, you know.
If you exercise a certain muscle, it becomes bigger. In a similar pattern, your brain solidifies the pathways that you choose to take based on their frequency.
And next thing, I got slapped in the face. And I was like, what? And my reaction was not positive. Why?
Yeah.
Is it just being a man? Is it a different mindset? Is it testosterone or something that's driving that crazy attitude? What is it?
I think it has to do with, what's the word? It's
something biological?
Obsessed. It's obsession. I think men are more likely to be obsessed with things. From one side, they're more like most drunk people are men, most drug addicts are men, most gamblers are men, most criminals are men, and all these things are things that you get kind of addicted or obsessed to. Most successful chess players in the world, a game which clearly has nothing to do with your gender, are men, because if you take a top 1,000 women and top 1,000 men, I think maybe the top 10 women can battle the places after 500, but it's not even close.
Okay.
And my best explanation to that, because I don't believe that one mind is superior to the other, is the rate at which people get obsessed with things. And I think men get obsessed with things much easier than women.
So if we accept that as a premise, which I've never heard that, but that makes a lot of sense. And there must be a reason why, maybe a biological reason, but that makes a lot of sense. Wow, okay. So that would actually impact many aspects of life. Like
I think men also chase women. I've never heard a lot of a time that a woman gets so obsessed with the guy that she chases for him for his whole life.
You should spend more time with me.
But I've seen guys in my life, and it's the whole romantic book thing that a guy chases a girl for ages, ignores all the other things around, and finally they're together. It's this whole narrative which is so popular, and it's obsession.
And as Lucas would probably say, it's just more ingrained into our mindset. Primal men. It's you go after and chase.
Yeah.
Well, now that I bring up Lucas, it reminds me of something. I had a conversation with him the other day. It was the topic of being friends with exes. And, well, I wanted to go and see an ex, maybe I told you about, and I just wanted to, I guess I wanted to be friends with her. That was my idea. And Lucas asked me, what are you looking to achieve out of this? And I said, well, let's say hypothetically I could accommodate 10 friends in my life, like a full Sheldon Cooper. This is the capacity I have. And I wouldn't even consider an 11th. But let's say that I moved to another country and maybe, Maxime, you moved to that country, but I already had 10 friends there. I wouldn't now say, sorry, I can't accommodate you because I just know, I just can't not be friends with you because we already have that relationship. So I would make a plan. And this was my thought process when I went to have coffee with my most recent ex. And then when I did have coffee with her and we chatted for about 2 hours, I realized that maybe it's a little bit more difficult than I thought. Not because either of us had any feelings or anything like that, but because being friends with someone is very different from dating them.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
Is there a difference between a romantic connection and a friendship connection? Or better yet, do you need a friendship connection to have a romantic connection?
So I was just thinking of the second. I was thinking that, because obviously she's your ex, so something went south. And maybe the friendship aspect, I don't know. Also, some relation, nothing is identical. So relationships can have such different dynamics. I know couples who always fight always fight
Ooh.
and then have the hottest makeup sex. And like one of the partners, guy or girl, get heavily abused by the other. And it's like, dude, why are you staying in this relationship? She is running over you. And it's like, I don't know. And then at the core bottom, it's like, it's because that's their kink. Because at the end of this, they make up. And that's the best feeling that they get.
I didn't expect that. I thought that was going somewhere else. And I would assume that of the couples or of the individuals who are in abusive relationships, who stay in their relationships, what you've just described is a far minority.
Oh, absolutely.
That's going to be my assumption.
Absolutely. This is definitely a minority. But that just shows how much variability there is in anything, such as relationships. Two identical couples both get abused. One likes it, the other doesn't. The other is actually, a victim of domestic assault. So,
even just as you're speaking, there are 3 different things I want to talk about, which you just remind me of. And the mind works like this. I can never think of them all at the same time. But I don't know if I've told you this before, but we're here now, so I'm going to tell you. This is my most controversial opinion.
Let's do it.
Let me go back a step. I remember my cousin, who is a psychologist, or I think she's an industrial psychologist, but in order to get there, you have to do the normal psychology. Don't quote me on that. But she said it's very important how couples fight.
Yeah.
And I think what she meant by that was how they resolve conflicts.
Right.
But what I think, and this is my controversial opinion, is that couples don't need to fight.
Yeah.
And that couples, fighting in a relationship is necessarily a product of 1 or 2 factors. Number 1 being a lack of respect, and number 2 being improper communication.
Mm-hmm.
And if I break that down for you, if you have proper communication and you know how to communicate something in a respectful way, but you don't have that respect, then you lack that respect, it's going to trigger a fight. So if I know I don't want you to, be sitting with your elbows like this, and I could tell you politely, and I know that that's respectful, but I choose not to, and I say, move your elbows, Maxime, in like an aggressive manner or something, it's going to trigger a fight.
Yeah.
Or if you are respectful, but you actually don't know how to communicate, which I'm going to go ahead and say is every single human being at some point in their lives, or at least we sway, because no one is perfect at communicating. It's harder than you think. Then it can trigger arguments. But I know that was quite a lot in one go. What do you think of my opinion that couples don't need to fight?
Yeah, me and my partner, we basically never fight. Like, in
You
our
have the perfect relationship.
6 years together, we haven't raised our voice at the other a single time.
Ooh.
And we don't intend to. And like every couple ever has, like you said, miscommunications. But this is a great example, I think, of how couples fight, because you don't. Some people will throw plates at each other's.
Please.
did that trigger something?
No, I did not expect that. And then I thought, well, maybe if you're throwing plates in Greek style, celebrating, but sorry.
No, and then others can just work things out through communication. One thing that caught my attention is you said that a conflict would only
come in those situations.
Come in a situation of disrespect and bad communication.
Yes.
What if you have great communication and utmost respect for the other person, but you just have a very, very different value set?
Ooh, I like this. Okay. Could you think of an example to paint me? Because I like what you're doing. You're challenging my thought process, and this always adds in other parameters.
Very simple one, waking up earlier versus waking up late. A more complicated one would be religion. And somewhere in the middle example would be when you go on a holiday. Some people like being active and going to the hikes, and some people like staying on the beach.
Yes.
Some people prioritize health, while others prioritize productivity.
I'm going to let you choose, because there's many examples.
Say health and productivity.
But I don't see a single example of a time that you need to fight that doesn't stem from those 2 parameters. So can you paint a picture?
Right. Let me fantasize. So let's say there is a couple where one wants to prioritize money because they're an average income family, and they can see that the gap between the ultra rich and the middle class is growing very fast.
Okay.
And right now, maybe the last decade, where in the person's opinion who's trying to prioritize money, you can break out of middle class. After that, just looking at the apartment's history, it seems like no middle class family will be able to own an apartment in their lifetime.
Okay.
While 50 years ago, every middle class family could own an apartment. And right now, it's like you can, but only one and never two. So that's the argument of the person prioritizing finances. And then there is his lady or his gentleman, whichever sexual orientation they decide to follow. Fuck.
You're trying to be politically correct. It's not working, but your mind is in the right place. Your heart is in the right place.
And they're saying, no, live for today. Work a 4-hour work week and travel and fuck the office. It makes you miserable. It makes you not only takes up your time, but the stress and cortisol level takes years of your life at the end of it because of how much that impacts your health. And you're madly in love. You're so attracted. You have great conversations, but now you have to figure out how you make those next 10 years of your life, which you can reasonably plan towards, work.
I like that.
And you sit down and you start arguing because nothing makes sense. You have respect, you're good at communication, but after 2 hours, your values in life are so different that you just don't match.
Okay, I really like that because I was paying a lot of attention and I heard everything you said and I actually agree with you. I think it's important to add in that extra layer being values. And I'll say I can simplify it. Let's say there are 24 hours in a day and I'm just going to use an easy example of a man and a woman. And the man is the go-getter in the situation who wants to work X amount of hours. And let's say it's extreme, 14 hours a day. The woman works a normal job, 8 hours a day. They both need an hour each side of work to get ready, go to work, come home, travel, relax, etc., etc. Now, the man was working 14 hours. That's 16 hours, adding on those 2 hours. And let's say he needs to sleep for 8 hours. He has no time for his wife.
Exactly.
The wife requires 2 hours from her man in order to be happy. Yeah, there's no solution to that. So I think you're right there.
It's actually a very common situation where a guy thinks he is owed by his lady because he is working such long hours.
Yeah.
And he's paying rent. And the lady thinks she's got a shit husband because she wants somebody who will give her
a hug, cuddle, watch a movie, go for a walk.
And she doesn't care about money, or that's not her priority. What she wants is a little bit of tenderness and happiness. And the guy is like, we need to pay rent. And she's like, we can just move into a smaller apartment. What's the problem?
Yeah, a man who thinks that way about it's almost like he's entitled to the woman because he's paying, that it's like a form of financial control. I don't like that. I like it if they are both happy, then sure. But in a situation where he's entitled and she's unhappy and he's unhappy, it just doesn't work out. And you're right.
It's like a miscommunication. If he feels like entitled, that's worse. But I can also see his perspective, right? You work like really long hours and then you come home and somebody's unhappy with you. I can see how that can make a logical disappointment. You're like, oh, I'm doing all this work and at the end of it I have no gratitude. What is this? Like when somebody cooks for me, I'm happy. Why is it that now I'm doing my version of cooking, they're not happy?
Yeah, look, fair, but I don't think it's the same.
Yeah, it's not the same, of course.
Yeah, when you're cooking for someone, you're literally cooking for that person. When you're working, you could be working for the family, you could be working for yourself. And I think at least from the woman's perspective, you're definitely working for yourself. But just to break it down there, I think that's a very good example where if you did communicate respectfully and have respect, you could not come to, because we made it in such clear black and white terms, you could not come to an agreement. You could compromise and say to the man, could you work 12 hours a day? Whether he would be happy with that long term or not, I don't know. Probably if the answer is no, they're not compatible. So the sense of values is important.
Yeah, I actually don't think even if the person reduces working from 16 to 12 hours will not help. Because here's my best guess. It's again coming from the point of values. If your value is still chasing money, let's say you get over the happiness part, you won't really be there. if your love language or whatever
Mm.
those kinds of things is chasing money and chasing big dreams, you just won't be it doesn't seem you will be very good at the tenderness that the other person requires.
Yeah, so they're just not compatible.
You'll be at
Yeah.
home, but you'll be thinking about what's your next chess move at
Yeah,
work.
Sure. And then it's just not quality time.
That's not
And the
quality
person knows that. And on the topic of values,
Yeah.
I remember when we met, and it didn't take very long for us to get on
time.
really
We got
well.
on so quickly.
And you told me something like, which was a surprise. I wouldn't say it was a surprise, but I just didn't realize it. You said, I'm very particular with where I put my time. And I only spend time with people who I know I can gain something out of. Not in a bad way, you're not taking advantage of people, but in the sense that you enjoy spending time with person A, therefore you spend time with person A.
I like to say that I like spending time with people that inspire me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Person doesn't
Inspiration.
inspire me. It sounds super douchey, but
Bring it.
yeah. If it's just a old university friend who I haven't seen in a couple years, and there's an invitation, maybe yes, but I've got so much to do.
Yeah.
I've got so many exciting projects to cover, and I have a lot of people in my life who are really, really, really special. And from family members to my partner to a couple of really close friends, I don't see enough of those people. I really wish I could find time to spend triple the amount of time with those people. So just purely logical.
Yeah.
Why am I putting half of my day towards someone who doesn't hold a place so close to my heart?
And when do you think it'll be easier? Or maybe you do it already, just to be clear cut and say, no, I don't want to spend time with you to person A or B, because the reality is you would rather not. You'd rather spend the time by yourself, or you'd rather spend the time with, as you say, your family or loved ones. That difference in values. The first time we went out and we finished the bottle of wine that I bought. And
I love that story.
I said to you, Maxime, you need to go buy a bottle of wine because we just finished this and I want more wine. So it's your turn now.
And I was so happy you said it because it was so straightforward.
Versus, do you find it difficult making friends with, I say, English people with the culture being not as direct? Or is it easier to come across as rude to English people? Suppose we could ask English people that.
Well, I think the topic of culture is so deep because I had the privilege of being in many countries and traveling around quite a lot. And it's I think I'm closest to an Asian mindset of life.
What does that mean? I'm so sorry. I don't know.
Yeah. So what I've seen in like the average life of a person that lives in Asia.
Asian. Did
yes,
you say Asian.
Asian.
Sorry,
yes.
I misheard you. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, it speaks close to me. I get it. I get along with them very well. So yeah, I guess it's that. The closer you are to the person's values, culture, and things like that, the easier it will be to communicate it with them. There are exceptions where people are polar opposites, but I still think there is something mutual about those people, whether it's like a drive to discover what the other is like if I go
interest or curiosity.
Exactly. If I go to Japan and I meet somebody who's Japanese, we won't have much in common, I think. But what we could have in common is I'm very curious in what you are in Japan, and you're very curious what I am as a foreigner.
Yes.
Nothing in common, but that part is in common.
And do you think that mindset is so unrelated to your upbringing or culture? So what I mean by that is, if I look at my close friends, there's not two people from the same country. And I wonder if it's because it doesn't matter in what country you are from. If you have a certain mindset who is curious and open-minded, that wherever you are born, wherever you're raised, you are going to be stimulated by, I guess, meeting new people.
That's a very beautiful looking way at it. And I think that's the case.
Yeah.
I think that's the case. I think in different cultures and in different value sets, you are more likely to find someone that's closer to you. Let's say you're a person from Greece and you walk the streets of Athens. If you talk to 100 people there, you're more likely to bond well with them than if you walk and talk to 100 people in Vietnam.
Fair.
You will find people that
you get on with, or
both places, but you'll probably bond more with people in Greece and in Vietnam.
Okay.
So I think it's something like that. I don't think there's anyone in this world that I would not be able to get along with. It's more about who is someone that I can find that is special in my life.
Who you want to spend time with. Yeah.
And by the way, the whole introvert extrovert spectrum.
Yes.
I think people land very differently on that. I would say that I am very certain between the two of us, you're a lot more extroverted than me, and perhaps that would mean that you would be more excited to meet a bigger number of people than me. Could that be at all the case?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm definitely very extroverted, but I also think that we all we swing.
I think so.
We have our introverted moments or extroverted moments depending on the environment. But on the cultural values, I just thought of something that, I want to share a little slightly personal story.
Yeah.
I was with Kate recently and, not
Your
recently.
partner,
My partner. Maybe in January odd. And she said to me, being Irish girl who's not really exposed to a lot of, we are very direct as South Africans. She said, I'm too harsh when I bring up something I'm unhappy with. She says, whether it's something small or whether it's something big, I still come with the same amount of, maybe she used the word aggression. Or not aggression, but she used another word, but let's just say aggression. And I said, okay, I agree with you. It is the same amount, but the amount is 0, because to me, that's what they were. But to her, they were a lot harsher. They were maybe they were 100 or 80 or 200, whatever the scale is. So just walking that line of trying to understand a different culture or different way of speaking. Like with her now, I know when we have these conversations, how to communicate in a relationship. I actually just need to really take a second and soften my tone before I speak to her about anything. Like if she is trying to tell me what to do when I'm in the kitchen, which I really don't like.
Yeah.
Just have to... You're allowed to acknowledge your inner child. I read a book that said this. Your inner child is what your emotional responses to anything. That's your inner child, how a child would react. If someone accidentally bumps into you, your inner child would want to hit them.
Yes.
Something like that. But hopefully you're a logical adult human being who can process emotions and not act that way. So, I mean, in this situation, I would just go up to Kate and kiss her slowly and say something like, why don't you just put your feet up? Let me pour you a glass of wine and let me handle the dinner, because I want to bring you dinner, but I want to do it my way because I want to make something special for you. Something like that.
When I say relationships take work, I think that's what I mean by that. I don't mean that, like we earlier in the show, I said that it's incredible that men and women stay together despite our differences.
Yes.
The main takeaway from that would be that it just takes effort to maintain any relationship, friendship, a relationship with a parent, obviously a romantic relationship. And this effort and this work is not necessarily the same work that you do 9 to 5 in the office, but it's that, right? It's being open and compassionate and working on communication and doing little tweaks in your behavioral patterns to adapt to your person, to the person that is in your life. And that's very difficult, I think.
Being able to stop yourself when you maybe something is not going very well in your life and you're a little bit frustrated, and just respond in a way that is respectful again and with good communication, and therefore no reason to fight, provided the values are aligned, as you pointed out.
Yes.
I was cycling the other day in the cycle lane, and a pedestrian was in the cycle lane, an old lady, and she didn't know she was in the cycle lane.
Oh, no.
So I was cycling, I rode up to her, I could see her, I slowed down, and I don't like this English cultural thing where there's a bell on the bike because people just want to ring it. I don't have a bell on my bike. I just use my voice. I can talk.
Thank you, Alexi. Fuck these people that always ring when they're driving 2 millimeters away from me.
Are we saying fuck English people?
Not English people, because it's everyone. It's just, everyone in London.
I just say, excuse me. Like, why not use your voice? So I say to this lady, excuse me. And she looks up and says, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't even know this was a cycle lane. And then there's someone behind me says, your mind, please. I said, this is so unnecessary.
Yeah.
And I said to this old lady, you know what? I'm a cyclist and sometimes I make the same mistake. And then I went on my way. And you know what? She left that interaction really positive. And she could have been really negative if the guy who behind me was in front of me and he interacted with her.
That is such a beautiful story. Do you know because this is so relevant to it. Do you know those protein bars, Kind?
I do not know.
So they're protein bars, and the founder of them is this South American guy. I don't know where he's from. I think Costa Rica. Probably I'm wrong, but he's South American, and he follows the exact philosophy that you're saying. So, we're people. We like putting labels on things. Everything has a label. We have a name for every type of diet people follow. It's just what people do, right? We have vegetarians, flexitarians, pescatarians,
100%,
and so on. So he put a label on it, and it was very simple: kindness. So he says, if you just always come with an approach of kindness, the world is a better place. And that's what you've done. You didn't just push this lady out of the way or honk at her or scream. You were compassionate and you were kind, and you asked her to step away, and then you could see that she was feeling uncomfortable and embarrassed, and you comforted her like in a nice way by saying that this is a mistake that you do, which you probably don't. And I think all that can be summarized by kindness.
And can I give you it's like a principle, and it's where humans are inconsistent.
Yeah.
And if someone makes a mistake in any aspect of life, there's an accident of some sort. Maybe they have just got food from a restaurant or takeaway and they drop it on the floor. Yeah. Or they get a drink and maybe they bump into you accidentally. 99% of the time, humans are going to react with sympathy. Oh, no, it's okay. Or you both walk to the door, stand back, sorry, after you.
In London, at least, for sure.
Yeah. But as soon as there's something else, as soon as someone makes a mistake on the road, no, humans are mad.
Why do you think that is?
Now, I think that's just how we are programmed, and no one stops to think for themselves. And there are so many factors that could go into that. And, like, for example, how to discipline children. And this is a huge topic. And I listened to a speech once where a man was talking about, a man's response to, should we use physical action? Should we hit the children in order to discipline them? And a man will say, I was hit as a child and I'm fine now. This is the way to do it.
And
then
premise
leave.
One, premise two.
So, yes. And then leave the seminar. And on the way home from the seminar, someone cuts him off and starts swearing, wants to fight, for road rage. Are you really fine? Is that how humans should be? Mm-hmm. And I don't think the answer to that is yes. Mm-hmm. And I also don't think that that's going to change at any point unless you put effort into it. Which is why, it's something that I did. I acknowledged that I had extreme road rage. I was driving from far too young, but I really struggled with road rage. And I thought, this is actually not the person I want to be. And I definitely don't want to be that around my children. But to assume that I'm going to change when I have children is ludicrous. I need to change now. And now I can really be proud of the fact that I'm not like that at all. When people make mistakes, actually last week someone crashed into me on my bike.
What? No way.
Oh, mistake. But, no person goes out there to crash into someone on purpose. I just say, don't worry. Like, please, maybe if he had his phone on or whatever it was, just try to be more careful because the next person might not have been prepared. Like, I saw this car coming. It was a van. I saw the van was going to hit me. I leant in. I was ready for impact.
Jeez.
It could have been someone else who wasn't. Yeah. And it happens. But that person didn't try and hit me. No one tries to knock someone off their bike or anything like that. So if we can accept that humans are inherently kind, or better yet, humans aren't out there to try and hurt us, then we should be able to accept that when they do, it's a mistake. And if it is a mistake, how are we penalizing them for it? That makes no sense.
Yeah, there are two things that you said, which I think really, really struck deeply. You said, that's not the kind of person I want to be. And then you said, and that's definitely not the kind of person I want to be around my kids.
Sure, 100%.
That is such a, big changer.
It's a trigger for, I guess it's grounding. It's a big life event, which I have not experienced yet. But I think that to assume that I'm going to make a change at a time in my life when I'm going to have less hours and maybe be more stressed is ludicrous. If I'm more stressed because I've got a crying baby and I'm trying to balance that with my job and work and maybe a wife who's just come out of childbirth and I need to tend to her. And I think that man, that form of Alexi, is going to suddenly be a better man than someone who doesn't have these responsibilities. That's just someone who didn't think about it.
Yeah.
So, I've thought about it and I decided to make the change. And,
very good to think. I think it's very good to have a little bit of time when you are not bored, but when you are not overwhelmed with everything else. Because I think there's opportunity for growth then. There's opportunity to assess your actions and think and plan things ahead. And, actually this idea of who I want to be around my kids never came to me. But I think that the deeper one thinks into this, what's the image that you want to be as somebody who...
This world. Somebody who is a good father figure or a good influence, or at least sets up the base.
It will make a big impact. It will make a big impact on who you are.
And I think that's important.
Coming back to road rage, I have a theory, but call me out if you don't think it's
I will.
accurate. You know how online people are super mean because they feel safe. They are protected by a screen. Nobody's going to give them any accountability for their actions. There are no consequences for saying things online, and therefore a lot of people are saying what they think. A lot of people are exaggerating what they think. That's why mean comments that you read under YouTube videos will be the harshest thing you see, and you will never hear anything like this being ever told to your face. Do you think driving is like the in between online and real life? You bump into a person in the proximity of half a meter, you're not going to risk it. If you're in front of a glass window screen and they are 5 meters away from you, and you, in the back of your mind, think that you're protected because you're in a car, you'll lock it. What is the worst thing they can do? Shoot you? They won't do that.
I think very much so. And for example, if it's a car and a cyclist or a car and a pedestrian, the car just knows that he or she can get away.
Yeah.
So it's just provides that environment to behave however you want to, and there's no consequences.
Yeah.
Now, the question is, does the person that you behave as, or does that mask allow you to be the true form of yourself?
I was just thinking that.
Yeah?
Yes. Do you think so? That would be a shame.
So I'm going to be very careful with this, because I did have a conversation recently when I said alcohol, this was my opinion, alcohol allows you to be the true form of yourself. Only to be disproved, and I accepted that, and it was very, very relevant, because people will just they'll make a decision when they're sober and make a decision when they're drunk.
Yeah.
And the sober Maxime would never do that, but drunk Maxime might. And sober Maxime should not be crucified for that decision. Of course, there are limits to that. If you get into a car, if you damage the car, if you hurt someone or worse, then unfortunately you need to. That's just the law. But when it is, remind me, where were we? With the car and...
So if it's our true selves that given a safe space, we become berserk.
I think so. I really do. Because it demonstrates your integrity or lack thereof. Because you've got no benefits and you've got a shield. If no one can find out who you are, or if there are no consequences for your actions, then surely that's the only time that you're making those decisions based on what the impact of the decisions is. An easy example is you get a wealthy person who likes to donate to some starving children or something like that, and that's fantastic. But that comes with a significant public image.
Yeah, for sure.
If the person makes an anonymous donation, well, there's many less of those people. Yeah. Now, that's someone who really wants to give for the sake of giving, rather than receiving something in return.
Absolutely.
And what do you think?
Yeah. It's really hard to say, because I think there's also an extra nuance to it with, I think some things build up in a person. Like if you go into a rage room and you just smash everything you can there, you're not going to do that forever. You're going to do that to let out steam. Like if you come into a rage room once, you're going to use it. If you come into a rage room twice, you're going to let out steam. If you come into a room 7 times a week, by the 7th day, you're going to be like, there's no point smashing things. I'm not getting the kick out of it. So I think 90% of that is that your true version comes out of it yourself, and everything, like you said, We're in a safe space. We can go ahead with it. But I think there's also 10% of the Western culture that we live in really prioritizes conflict aversion. And we, with our monkey ape brains, have a lot of aggression in us, all of us. And we are able to suppress it. But I don't know in what way, not in a hormonal way, in some kind of emotional way. I think it builds up in some people, especially with stress, especially if they're behind on money or deadlines or something like that. And then in a moment with a safe opportunity, all of that 2 weeks of your boss screaming at you comes out on this poor lady who is just in the biking lane. And some people are better at that. Some people are worse.
Does that excuse it?
No, definitely not. But it gives reasoning behind it. And I think maybe it doesn't come from a point of view that that person is evil, and just like that's their true self. But they have a lot of build-up that they weren't able to control to throw out. No excuse. But like it just comes from a different source.
I see.
Maybe it's not their true self. It's just their self, which is been silenced and suppressed because they weren't able to like express themselves for a long time. So they have to do it now.
Or it provides an understanding. Like, as you say, no excuse. And because at first I didn't agree with you as you said that, but I gave myself an extreme example in my mind, and then I was like, okay, I understand. Being that, let's say, for example, someone's family member passes away, and this person is so upset and ends up just...
That's not their true self, of course not, yeah.
Yeah, however, whatever the decision they make in that moment, the emotions are everywhere. So, yeah, it provides some understanding. It's not okay, depending on what they do, I suppose, but it does provide a level of understanding.
So I guess we have... you will like this.
Hit me.
Ali Abdal, I think is his name. He is a YouTuber, he was a doctor turned YouTuber. And he gives some life advice on YouTube, mostly productivity based, lots of books that he suggests and gives summaries of, and then some like philosophical things here and there. And I really like those philosophical things. I think they stimulate my mind in a nice way. So he said that, sorry, that's a book. From a book that he read. That book suggests that there are multiple personalities within us, and there are multiple states of us.
Based on our mindsets, or what is it based on? Or?
Just living within us, that we are not this one united form of Alexi. There is an Alexi that wants to be productive at work. There's also an Alexi that really enjoys video games in the evening. You don't play video games, I know, but for example...
If I did, sure.
There's an Alexi that really wants to achieve amazing results at the gym, and there's an Alexi which just likes that sweet dessert. And that's all you, but some of these things are a bit contradicting, but they're all true. And what we... like the traditional way of looking at it is that we just have different likes, and some of them can be incompatible. What that book or opinion suggests is that actually there are multiple of us living inside us, which form the one consciousness that we perceive as us. It has a continuation. It suggests, that's not just a view, because who cares, right? It also has actionable suggestions. So instead of trying to suppress one side of you and prioritize the other, he believes that in order for us to live in this like harmony amongst our different personalities, it's important that we find that compromise. For example,
with ourselves.
Yes. So we need to please everyone. We need to please everything. For example, if, like the example that was used there, you want to wake up early in the morning because there's a version of you which is super productive and really wants to excel at work. But there's another version of you which likes playing video games. So what you're supposed to do? Traditionally, we say, no, it's 10 p.m. The more important thing to me is to go work. So I will stop the video games,
Okay.
and I will be disciplined.
Okay.
What he suggests is we'll find that something that will satisfy both of your urges. Instead of continuing to play video games, on YouTube, put on a playthrough of that game, of somebody else playing that game, and watch that while you go and do your nighttime routine and brush your teeth. Lie in bed and continue watching that for a little bit longer. You will eventually go to sleep a lot earlier if you would have continued traditionally playing. But don't hurt the part of you which wants to do it. If you are a big dessert eater, don't be on a keto diet, which turns off all sugars. Can't have the carbs.
Okay. So it's... I don't know if I agree with the concept. It sounds more like an explanation for different moods and different swings. Like, completely, if I use myself in this example, I love to party all night, but I also love to wake up really early and have the day. So can you do both? Well, I can and I have, but it takes its toll on your body. Is there a form of me that likes one and the other? Or do I just like both? Or what mood am I in? If I'm now training for a marathon, I'm going to take my hands off the alcohol a bit and spend more time focusing on my fitness. And then once I finish the marathon, I will go back to being a bit more wild, something like that. I don't know if I'd use the word different personalities, but I think I would imagine it's just an explanation for...
moods, right?
Sorry,
for mood.
Yeah, different moods. So let's say, for example, let's use the bicycle example of the man and the old lady. Even if let's say this man 6 days out of 7 is a very understanding, patient man who would not react to that. But on day 7, he wasn't, and he isn't.
Yeah.
And something happens on day 7. Maybe someone is sick, there's some personal stresses, and that's just an explanation for his different mood. So I don't know if I'd use the word different personality, but more humans have one personality which is based on the most probable or the average of our moods. And that is something that I think we can control.
Yeah.
Just based on, do we take time to prioritize our emotions?
I think priority is the key word here. We kind of decide what is the most important mood that we're going to be in. And that kind of defines us as a person. A person who believes that, partying is what brings them most life. Is also more likely to be in a party mood a lot more. And so that defines him. And that person is unlikely to be an early bird that wakes up at 7 in the morning. Even if he likes to do that. And sometimes does it, that's probably not how he defines himself.
I was in the job market recently, as you know, and had a recruiter call me. Her name was Mary. And there was a company that I was quite keen to work for, and I went through interview 1, interview 2, and they were looking like they were really keen for me. I was at the final stage, and they asked me to do an assignment. And I think there were 3 odd candidates who did the assignment.
Yeah.
And I put a lot into that assignment. And I remember saying, that is the best that they are going to get. It was good. And maybe I did that on the Friday, and I didn't hear for the whole next week. And I was frustrated, admittedly so. And Mary called me during the next week saying she's frustrated. She doesn't know what's happening. She called them again. And we then found out that they had a hiring freeze and they actually just weren't hiring anyone at all. Oh. Now, that is frustrating when I've put hours into a piece of work when they weren't going to hire someone. But Mary's response was, you seem so happy about this. And I said, I'm not happy. I can assure you I'm very frustrated. But I was frustrated with them. You, on the other hand, have been absolutely lovely. And you are just delivering the message to me. And I'm going to give you back the same love that you're giving me. I was very frustrated with the company. But I didn't need to take that mood onto her.
Not of her, of
just
course.
Process my emotions, keep them to myself. And this is something that I do. I take time. If I'm upset, I need some me time. And I will schedule that into my calendar. If I need to think about something, I need me time. So if you ask me, can I do something tomorrow, and I had me time and I needed it, I'm going to say no. It's a priority to me. Because if I don't, then I'm going to react in a way that I'm not proud of at a random situation. Sometimes I need to go and just think. I sit there and I build a cube in my mind. I sit there and I think. Sometimes I sit in the jacuzzi at the gym, headphones in, and my eyes are closed, and I just sit there thinking. I know you do this as well. You take time for yourself.
Do you think that's the alternative for you?
To the rage room.
To the rage room, to a therapist, to something that works on mental health? Because you said something, and at first I got very worried. You said, don't let that emotion of anger get onto this HR person. That wasn't her fault. Keep it to yourself.
Yes.
And immediately my alarm bell went off, and I'm like, if every emotion down yourself, that's eventually gonna
red flag
shoot out of you. And then you mentioned that you take that you time, and I guess that's you work through all of those emotions
100%.
in your you time.
It's accepting and processing, going through the 5 stages of grief if you need to, depending on what's happened. If depending on how bad it is, the event that impacted your life. But I'll give you a very personal example, which I didn't know if I'd talk about, but hey, well, here we are. So I had an ex who I was with for 8 years, and I accepted, to me, that I should only be with one girl. That was just a principle that I had instilled in me from a young age.
Right.
And despite the fact that I never really agreed with the concept, it's still something that my mind aligned with in a really weird, messed up way. I know that doesn't really make sense, but it's something along the lines of, I love Coke. I love Coke. It's really nice. But I don't agree with people who drink Coke. But I can't help myself but love it. It's really refreshing or something like that. And I remember going to sit in the jacuzzi after the two of us split, and I sat there for over 2 hours thinking. And what I needed to do was prove to myself that sticking in a relationship is bad. Because if I could systematically dismantle my logic that told me that it was good, it would allow me the freedom to accept that it was over, or at least forgive myself for moving on from that. And it may sound simple to you, and it probably sounds simple to most people because people generally date many people. But it was not easy for me because it's something that was so ingrained.
Wow.
It's not even about the time period. It's more about the fact that it is something that was ingrained in my mindset. And because I could prove that it was wrong, and how much, I think the overwhelming point, the point that eventually broke it down to me, is that I caused so much pain to her accidentally by being with her.
Right.
And what I mean by that is I should have ended it after year 1 or year 2 or year 3.
Right.
But I am a people pleaser. I didn't want to hurt her, and I caused more pain by not ending it sooner.
It's interesting.
And so I ended up down this rabbit hole. But taking that, back to answer the question, taking the time to process your emotions and prioritize them and understand your own thoughts, I think that's very important. And I think people don't do that.
Would it be an accurate statement to say that at the time, the opinion that you need to stay with one person your whole life is something that is almost like a part of your identity? It's something that you identify with. I am the kind of person that only has one partner throughout life.
Yes.
And I'm sure there's a bunch of others that we all have. Like, I don't know, I'm the kind of person that eats healthy. And then if somebody puts a unhealthy meal in front of you, you kind of go, that's not me. I don't really do that. Even though objectively, if you eat one thing with that is very unhealthy, nothing's going to happen to you. In fact, you're probably going to enjoy it, but you're not going to allow yourself to enjoy it because that's not the kind of person you are, or a vegan or anything like
that. Someone who exercises regularly.
And then you don't go to the gym for 2 months and you're like, that's not the kind of person I am.
Absolutely.
So was that not the kind of person you are?
I really think so. It was something that I identified with without even knowing. I don't think I ever used the words I identify, but sure, definitely. Let me ask you a question. This is maybe if it's philosophical, but do you think it's possible to ever know that you are with the right partner romantically? And what I mean by that is some people say, when you know, you know. And I'm going to, let me just say up front, there's 2 schools here, at least for me, and I think for you. There's the emotional side, the romantic side, what we spoke about earlier, what could make life beautiful. But there's also the logical side. And before I poison your mind with my thoughts on them, I want to hear what yours are.
I can tell you with 100% certainty that the person that I'm dating right now, I'm 100% certain that she is definitely the right person for me. what I can't tell you is whether we'll be the right people for each other in 15 years.
Fair.
Nobody can tell you that.
Fair.
She can't tell me that. I can't tell her that. No psychologist or anyone.
Fortune teller.
You just don't know. You change so much over the course of your lifetime, and depending on how much the couple works together, you either grow together or you grow apart.
Do you think that necessarily means that no one will be able to tell you or answer the question for you or themselves? I.e., there's no couple that could say we are right for each other always.
Well, I think it very much, it not all only, but it also very much depends on each individual's efforts into it. Look at this. In India, people, to this day, and I met just 2 weeks ago a couple from India that got married by, they were single. Their parents went to their local, I don't, it's not a church, it's not a temple, or the religious house that they, follow. And they have this tradition going for thousands of years back. They brought the name of their child, the man for the man, And then the church decided that based on some facts that they know about these people, these two people should be together.
Traditional married at first sight, eh?
Yep. And that's how they got married. And guess what? They're making it work.
Making it work is very different from being happy, though.
They seem... Well, right? It also depends... This is a whole huge topic because you definitely don't want to be unhappy. Do you want to be ultra happy? Do you want to be very happy? Do you want to be happy? Do you want to be content?
Scale of happiness, eh? Content, right. Good one.
I think I want to be more than content. But then, if you've already been in 3 marriages before, and finally your wife is not fucking your brains out, and you're content in your marriage, you're going to be like, I might just stay in this one for the rest of my life.
I'll just deal with it.
Depends on your degree on what you're looking for. So this is very variable. And a lot of it, like the reason I brought those two people up is you could see how much they're working on their relationship. They are making it work because they don't really have a choice. They're independent adults. They're like 35 each and they've only been married for like 3 years. But imagine at the age of 32, you meet someone who your family and your religion expects you to spend the rest of your life with. And it seems like they're doing a really good job out of it. So I think there's a lot of things that people can do if they kind of, really don't have too many red flags against each other and somewhat compatible. They can be in a happy couple moving forward. Most people don't do that, I think.
Yeah.
Most people kind of see where relationships takes them. So if you just see where a relationship takes you, nobody can tell you where you'll be in 15 years. If you thoroughly and rigorously work on your relationship, then definitely in 15 years time you'll be fine, because if it's your full-time job you will definitely be fine. But most people don't do that. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Well, Tony Robbins.
I do. I was at one of his
seminars.
Yeah,
it was in Russia, eh? Yes, I remember that. And then maybe I brought him up in the past for this reason, I'm not sure, but
tell me anyway.
Couples complain about relationships coming to an end.
Yeah.
But that's because they don't act like it's the beginning. He said something like that and then painted an example. If you just start dating a girl and she says, will you please take out the trash? And you say, yeah, sure, I'll take out the trash. And you're just so lovey and so happy to do anything to help this woman. But if you're a year in, you might be like, okay, I'll do it. And if you're 5 years in, you'll be like, you take it out. And that change in your mindset has an impact on the relationship.
Absolutely.
And so he says, if you don't want the relationship to have an end, then act like it's the beginning and treat her or treat him, depending on which way, with the same respect as you would at that situation.
Beginner's mind, expert's mind.
Oh, okay. See how it comes in a circle then?
It does.
I find Tony Robbins very inspiring for numerous reasons, but this is just one of them.
And I didn't let you talk about this topic. You said you had some opinions. Let me give you this. What do we have here? This is chamomile, right?
Yes, I'm very keen for some of that.
So what do you think about perfect partner? How do you know? Like you asked me, do you know?
Yes.
Can you ever know 100% that the person you're with is a perfect partner?
Yes,
So what do you think?
So I'm going to maybe similar to what your book is, to kind of have different opinions or different personalities. So my whole life, I've said no. It doesn't make any sense. And this is a product of just watching people that I love grow apart. And it does happen, very sadly.
Yeah.
So completely logically, you can be 10 out of 10 compatible with your partner now. And maybe in 10 years' time, you are as well. But maybe in 20 years' time, you're only 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
And 30 and 40 years' time, you're just not compatible.
Yep.
And then what happens? Well, you either split or you are just unhappy. So can you know? Logically, no. But at the same time, yeah, it's going to sound really cheesy. You know, I'm very in love with my partner, and it's
You
the
guys
first
are great. I love you guys as a couple.
Oh, thank you. It's the first time in my life that I mean, with respect to past partners, it's the first time I've really been like, oh, I get it. Like, wow, this is what love is. This is what they mean. This is how it's supposed to feel, which then gives me a warming feeling of, you know what? Even if we're not 10 out of 10 compatible in the future, I still want to be with her because I love her so much. And maybe an easy example is we're probably not 10 out of 10 compatible now. She's not very sporty and I'm very sporty. So she wouldn't play sports with me. Doesn't mean I love her any less. Absolutely not. Like, I am madly in love with her. So, yeah, in fact, her mother said something like, the more compatible you are, the less you have to work at a relationship.
Nice.
But you still have to work.
You still have to work.
It's always going to be important. And just because you're obsessed with someone doesn't mean you wouldn't change anything about them. People say, and I find this very cheesy, I would never change anything about her or him. No, let's be real. You will. And I'll give you an easy example. If you look in the mirror, would you change something about yourself? And if the answer is yes, for everyone it's yes. No one has no insecurities. It doesn't have to be physical, can be emotional, could be a better football player, or it could be I could handle conflicts in a better manner. So I would like to change that about myself, and I'm working hard at doing that. I might want to change something about her, but I can tell you she wants to change things about me. Doesn't mean we're not in love.
Every couple ever.
I'm a messy person. I'm sure she would love to change that, but it really happens.
So I've got a question for you, Alexi. We talk about work in relationship. Watch out, it's very hot.
Yeah, okay.
This thing keeps... it doesn't understand the concept of heat loss.
I had one of these at university. I used to take it as well, and everyone used to laugh. This guy brought a kettle to he lectures. But yes, sorry, hit me with your question.
My question is, we talk about work and relationship. Can you give 2 or 3 examples of how one person, in your opinion, can work on a relationship? If you're speaking universally, you can give personal examples, but let's prioritize universally. An average person is in a relationship already for 2 years. I'll paint a picture a little bit. And now they're reaching a stage when the excitement is not the only thing in their life. They are now having other things come up.
Yeah, other factors. It's
Such
not
as,
just that passion up front.
Exactly.
Okay.
What's work? What can the guy, let's say the guy, what can the guy do to work on that relationship?
I love this question. Just going to say something up front. When you are unhappy with your job, what you should do, in my opinion, change it. When you are unhappy with your friends, what you should do, in my opinion, change them.
Yeah, I think I agree.
When you're unhappy with your relationship, what should you do? Change you first.
Oh.
And the reason for that is that has a significant impact on your relationship. And while you have an impact on your friends and on your job, and you should always work on yourself, in a relationship, it has so much of a greater impact. So I think what's so important is make time for each other. Make time to ask, I want to know what's good, but I want to know what's bad. It's important to know both so you can give more of the good stuff.
How do you make that time happen? Like, personally
how
speaking.
How do you make the time happen?
Yeah, because me included, for the longest time, I didn't really know how do you bring up such a conversation. You know, you come back from work, you what you have some dinner, you have some TV time, you have some hobbies you do together. How do you give an opportunity to check up on the person? Because if you ask how you're doing, what will they tell you? Fine.
Yeah, that's a standard response.
Right? But how do you give the person the opportunity to tell you how are they really?
I think it is very important to be in a neutral venue. So like going for a walk or something like that. And it's very important that they're in a calm space of mind. So if someone's coming home or your partner's coming home from a stressful day at work and then has a lot of admin to do, even if I had something really bad in my life, I'm just don't have the time, patience, or energy to tell you about it right then. I've got more important things to worry about. So providing them with a calm environment is probably the most important thing. But no, I'm going to say it's an important thing. The most important thing is being willing to listen.
Right.
Ask the questions, listen, be open-minded. And the one quality that you cannot be, defensive. You have to take on board anything that they say. And this is a two-way street because it's natural to be defensive when you're attacked.
Yeah.
And this is something that I'm still continuing to learn, as in, not to say that I've been attacked, but I understand that I come across quite direct or like I am attacking, which is definitely not my intention. So I say it's a two-way street. I can't just say, why are you being defensive if I'm attacking you? Well,
makes sense.
That just that's just being logical. So I think creating that environment and then actually you have to follow it up. So in my personal life, what I do with my partner is I ask her questions. When she's unhappy, I have a list on my phone and she knows. I'm not sitting there on Facebook while she's talking. I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes because I respect what she's saying and because I know I'm going to forget or not absorb everything or not remember everything. And then when I sit in the jacuzzi or when I have me time, I go over my notes so I can be a better version of myself for her and for myself and for potentially, and hopefully not, but if you learn these skills, you could learn them and you'll be better for future partners as well. I don't want that to be the case. It's better if you could be the better partner now.
Yeah.
It's quite easy to just dust off any constructive criticism because we are so biased as human beings and we don't really want to take on board that we are not perfect. And then suddenly, the flaw just disappears. Your relationship goes. And that's the time that you really want to work on yourself, or at least that you accept that you need to. I would rather work on myself in a relationship and improve so that I can make the current relationship better. What do you think? Yeah.
So to summarize what you said, as Confucius said, if you want to change the world, start by changing yourself.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot. And it impacts your relationship so significantly.
Especially if you want to save a relationship. I think sometimes people reach a point where, here is my take on another controversial topic, which is the cheating. I feel like a lot of the times a couple would actually be okay staying together, but if you have such a socially acceptable excuse, such as if your partner cheated, you don't leave them because they cheated. Which actually, if you do, that's completely reasonable. But I'm saying that a lot of the times couples, that's not the reason they're actually ending things off. The real reason they're ending things off is because that's what they deeply want. And now they have the opportunity to do it. Because if things are pink and roses or they're just fine, how do you go from dating or being married for 10 years to sitting down at the kitchen and telling a partner, hey, starting from tomorrow, I don't want to do this? It either takes for a very strong person, in my opinion, to make such a life-changing decision for themselves and for the other person who you're going into hurting. And it's completely your fault in the world's eyes because you didn't have to do this, but now you broke their heart. Now you're taking all of that responsibility and you're putting it onto the other person's shoulders. You're saying, well, you made the decision to be with somebody else, and that one day changes 10 years of our relationship. And you're being completely logical. And I'm not defending that cheating is good, but what I'm saying is you're just taking that excuse. Not always, but I think that's what a lot of times that can happen in a couple. So
regardless of whether or not one of the partners cheated or they just made the decision 10 years down the line, it's still the same process that gets them there, which is a process of an unhappy relationship.
Yeah.
So it's just a different response, I suppose, whether someone takes path A or path B. But the reason they split is not path A or path B. It's the 10 years before then.
Yep.
I think that's what's relevant.
A less controversial example, I think, is when a level of aggression in a partner from something that's not significant. If you are unhappy, in my opinion, in a friendship, in a relationship, at work, if you are just unhappy there, and let's use relationship, and your partner dropped and broke a glass, a perfectly happy couple goes, oh no, the glass is broken. Oh, are you okay? A really angry couple at each other will go, your hands grow out of your asshole. You keep breaking things. Could you just be more careful? It's not because the person broke the glass that they are getting this brutal response. It's actually completely something else. It's the fact that they are unhappy with a range of things in their relationship that gets them to lash out on this slightly insignificant example of a glass. If everything else was fine, the broken glass would not be a problem.
So I don't entirely agree with you.
Tell me.
And I know you like to be challenged. So I agree, maybe, let's say that is 50% of it. But the other 50% is how you as an individual process or react or respond, what you do with your emotions.
Yeah.
So, for example, you take that same person out and a stranger drops the glass. In the example you're describing, the stranger is not going to have any negative reaction because that stranger, the person didn't have any negative emotions building up towards that stranger.
Towards a stranger, yeah.
Whereas if it's someone who does just have negative emotions from something personal or isn't processing it, like the bicycle example, then they are going to react with a stranger. So
I think I agree on that.
Where
do I put it in the equation?
I think it's both.
I think it's
both
both
factors. So I'll give you an example. A friend of mine once accidentally broke my headphones. And, it's my same logic. They were very nice headphones. I like them a lot. But no one breaks your headphones on purpose.
No.
And my friend was very surprised at how I was not unhappy. I said, oh, look, I'm not happy, but did you do it on purpose? My friend said, no. And so I said, well, then why must I be mad at you? You made a mistake. Mistakes happen. To which my friend said, yeah, but I just thought that, me breaking your headphones would give you the right to be angry. And to which I responded, why are you looking for the right to be angry? Life is so much easier if you're just happy. You don't need a right to be angry. You could be angry if you wanted to, but it doesn't help anything. It just makes situations worse. When you see this, I was going to a club on Saturday at Avi's birthday, and I see two boys in the street fighting, and now they're drunk and there's cars coming, and I just go up to them and I'm like, guys, please, let's just take this to the pavement. And the one guy starts swearing at me, if you touch me, I'm gonna fuck you up. And I said, look, I don't need to touch you, and I'm not here to touch you. I just don't want you to die. So please come to the pavements and I'll guide you there and I will leave you. And you know what? He actually realized that I wasn't a threat. And he was like, so they did. They went to the pavement, and then the bouncer said, I've been trying to get them off the street. And I said, well, yeah, they don't need to be there. But yeah, it's the whole, I'm not coming at you with aggression. I'm going to come at you with love.
That is amazing.
How do you put out a fire? Not with more fire.
Not with more fire.
Water.
With water.
But sorry, yes, what were you saying?
That's such a great example. I love the approach of, again, it's the kindness, or as you call it, from a point of love. I wish the world had more of that. I also think that what tends to work on people, we're going more into psychology, is if they hear the same information from the same person over and over and over again, they don't respond well to it. If they hear the same information from multiple sources, now that somehow gives that information more authority. Advertisement works the same way. If you always see advertisement, like I'm in business, so part of what I study is that if a person always sees your ad on YouTube, that's good. If you're potential client sees your ad on YouTube and hears you on the radio, suddenly the effect from that advertisement is times 10.
Okay.
It's something about that different
Platforms.
different source that makes a person really respond well to it. If you if we ever are unhappy with somebody, not unhappy, but if we want to change a behavioral pattern of somebody in the company, it's no secret. What happens? First, the manager talks to them. If that doesn't work, I go talk to them.
Okay.
And it's not that I have some kind of magical, convincing voice that just hypnotizes the person into doing what I tell them to.
I don't know. I feel quite hypnotized when you speak.
Thank you, Alexi. But I think it's just the fact that if multiple people come to you with a similar message, you may disregard one. It's a bit harder for you to disregard two. It's almost impossible for you to disregard 10. If the whole world... That's like, I guess, how society is formed, right? If enough people think a certain way, suddenly it becomes normal.
Ooh, 100%. This actually reminds me of something. So, I mean, okay, I'm going to try and come back to this before, but I want to ask a question directly on that. So, let's say hypothetically you're dating someone who does not respond well to or doesn't take on board when you make a suggestion.
Yeah. What kind of suggestion?
Well, if you say you're unhappy with something, maybe I don't know, that you left the washing out. So I'm very messy, so it happens always.
Me too, by the way.
Or you lose something or something. Then what do? Do you tell other people to go tell them? Well, that's a little bit like going behind their back. Or how would you get that message across? Show them other sources. Let's say the same thing. I wonder, is there a way, or does it sometimes these business cases cannot really apply to romantic relationships?
I think they can. I think there's a lot of, again, intent that goes behind your action. If my intent is to win an argument, right, it's not something that necessarily bothers me, but what bothers me is that the person doesn't listen to me. So again, like example, if my partner is leaving out clothes of the washing machine and they're not hearing me, it's actually not so much the clothes that's bothering me. What's bothering me is that I've mentioned to them 10 times and I don't feel heard. Then that's like one line of thinking. If it's actually the clothes that's bothering me, I think it's a different kind of thinking. And then there's a third line of thinking, which is like, what's healthiest for the relationship? Is it a fight worth fighting? So I think I can go in many different directions here. Sometimes like maybe it's wiser to take a compromise. I gave my partner, like we have a bedroom that we share, and there is the bathroom that's connected to that bedroom, and then there is another bathroom outside of that bedroom. And before my partner moved in, I told her, that bathroom is yours. It's completely yours. I think a girl needs a bathroom. I'm happy to give you that. Not such a significant thing for me. Just have it. You'll appreciate it. And then I asked her, hey, that laundry bag, you keep putting things on the laundry bag. So whenever I want to throw laundry in the laundry bag, I need to take everything off, open the laundry bag, put dirty clothes inside, close it, put everything back on. Can you just find a different spot to leave things? And, I think we work really great as a couple. We do a lot of compromises for each other. But that seemed to not be something that my partner wanted to compromise on. So instead of fighting that battle or be annoying by mentioning it 2 times a week, I just bought a second laundry bag.
That's what I was thinking.
That laundry bag is mine.
Okay.
And I use it, and I don't think my partner knows where it is. She does. But we just have our own laundry bags that we use. And that's the path I chose for that.
Well, I like that. I need to comment on that, because what you said just earlier on, is it something I want to argue about or fight over, something like that. Have you ever considered the prospect of being, this is how I like to see it, and maybe it's not always possible, maybe I'm just living in a fairy tale land, but being on the same side as your partner, always. This is our relationship, and we're against this issue.
Yeah.
You don't have an issue that I don't have, and I don't have an issue that you don't have. We have an issue, whatever the issue is. So, for example, I'm just thinking of it on the spot. If you're a man and you're dating a woman, and the woman has insomnia, and therefore can't sleep very well, that's going to impact your life as well. So you guys have an issue. And even if it didn't impact your life, you can sleep very well. Just accepting that it did, so you addressed it from the same side. Now, this is not an example where one person is doing something to the other. But even if it was, even if you use the example of the laundry, if you take that approach, then you also come up with different solutions when you're on the same team. And I think it just changes the way that you think about it. So, for example, if a man and a woman are going to a club and the woman is very jealous of the man or jealous of other girls coming to talk to the man could react like, you should be more secure, you got no reason to trust me, or something like that. But I think this is a toxic reaction. Now, it's not about what's reasonable or what's not, but more about if he was on the same side as her, saying something like, okay, you struggle with jealousy when we go out, so this is our issue. What can I do to make you feel more secure? I want to prioritize you. I want to make sure that you know that you're prioritized. Let's deal with this together.
Yeah.
So whatever those boundaries are that she feels comfortable with, whether they are hand in hand most of the time, or whether maybe he wears, I'm just going to paint an extreme example, maybe he wears a shirt with her face on it, or whatever it is. If you have that mindset, I think it just makes it easier to resolve differences or solve problems with your partner. What do you think about that?
I really like what you said about team, right? I think I like the approach that it's, I think a partner should be you, your partner against the world. That's the best.
That's really beautiful.
I like that.
That's cute.
Team. And the other thing that you said is like with the club example, you're supposed to socially like now have a reason to be upset at the person, but you don't have to be. One other thing that I think that personally for me is very important is that critical thinking that we were talking about earlier. Because socially, we're already told how to live our lives, A to Z. And I believe that it's the critical thinking in every one of us that makes us a little bit different from this cloned version that we would be if we didn't have this critical thinking. We'll have our take on things. And so the argument that socially somebody approached you at the club, now you have a reason to be upset at your partner, is not valid for me because I don't feel this way in my relationship. If my partner feels this way because she feels this way, that's valid. But if our partner is supposed to feel this way because that's what we have seen on movies since the age of 12,
yes,
that suddenly becomes less credible to me. Again, if a person feels a certain way, it's valid regardless. But I think, as in the book Animal Farm, one is more... But we are all equal, but some are more equal than the other. Same thing here. It's valid, but it's more valid if it comes from a place that this is the way I feel rather than, oh, socially XYZ, XYZ, XYZ.
I want to challenge you on that.
Yeah.
So if your partner is upset, there's something that triggers that upsetness.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be, it doesn't matter. What matters is that she's upset.
Yeah.
So if you are saying that you wouldn't be upset in that situation, I think that's completely irrelevant.
Yeah, that doesn't matter.
If she's upset, she's upset. And you need to then be a party to that. But how she got there, whether it be expectations that are from movies or societal norms or anything like that, it wouldn't be right of you to say, oh, this is a societal norm. You shouldn't think this way. Therefore, you shouldn't have these feelings. And I know you don't. But therefore, you shouldn't feel that way. That doesn't make sense.
I'll tell you something funny.
Hit me.
I wouldn't change my partner. I would change my partner.
Please explain. I'm a little bit lost on that one.
I wouldn't try to make the change.
Okay, which change are we talking about now?
I wouldn't try to change the way that my partner thinks. But if I found out that my partner thinks my partner thinks about most things because that's what TikTok told her to think, I would change the person I'm dating.
Yes.
So I wouldn't change my partner. I would change my partner.
I see. Okay.
It's just one of those things which it doesn't have to be for everyone, but for me, it's quite important. I think I have some takes which are unique, not bad, but I like them. And it's okay if my partner doesn't, but I would love for a little bit of consideration to go through it. If the argument is like I'm taking ice baths every day, and there is the whole toxic masculinity narrative going on. So if for some reason it turns out that I'm a toxic male because I'm very hard in my ice bath, that's a ridiculous argument.
Because you're very you're hard in your ass bath?
No, because like that whole grind, wake up, take an ice bath, that kind of stuff. My partner doesn't have to respect, doesn't have to agree with that. But if she just thinks it's silly, or if she thinks it's just that things that men do that they shouldn't, it's a bit of a different take, right?
Look, there's nothing wrong with having a different school of thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if I ever told you this. There's only one person that's going to agree with everything about everything that you think.
Yeah.
And it's a clone of yourself.
It's a clone of yourself.
So if you want to date that person, clone yourself and date that person. Otherwise, you have to put up with whatever you find. Now, you can change whoever you find, as you say, exchange them. I would use that word. But I think it just speaks about how compatible you are. You don't love everything about your partner. She doesn't love everything about you. And I think that's going to apply for every relationship. But it's just important that we are reasonably compatible. And if you love each other at a whole, then that's really great. But now I just remember that thing I said I want to remember earlier on. And I can't remember how I got there.
Yes.
But I can still remember what it is. So that's I want to change the topic. I want to jump a topic here. People want to fit in so significantly that they do not think for themselves and let their opinions sway based on, what they think they should be thinking.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. Politically, let's go politics.
Yes.
What are you? Are you, for the American terms, what are they, Republicans and Democrats?
Yes,
is that right?
Yes.
For the English terms, are they Labour and I don't even know.
Conservative?
I have no idea.
Yeah, what's the ruling party? That.
But the way I see it is, it doesn't matter. If everyone just made their own decisions, they wouldn't need to say, oh, okay, I need to think this way. So, for example, if I, and I definitely don't, but if I think conservatively and 80% of my views align with their policies, I'm just now put into a bracket that I have to follow the other 20% because I want to identify with that, because I want to fit in. Maybe it's a desire behind fitting in, or just not being willing to think for yourself or stand out.
I think a lot of the time, if a person is, like you say, conservative, they actually somehow end up adapting and taking those 20% of opinions onto themselves because of what I think we're talking about as tribalism.
Ooh, yes, that's very interesting.
Because they want to fit in, because they want to be a part of something. We discussed it earlier, the 6 social cues that are significant to people, which is significance, intelligence, acceptance, approval, pity, and strength. And acceptance and approval, especially acceptance, is part of this tribal mentality that we have. I think as a system it works. I think if you agree with 80% of the party, you will benefit more voting for that party rather than starting a new one and not losing anything.
Okay.
But I think it fits, like it's, as a system it works on an individual level, it's a bit funny.
Rather than just making, see, if you're having a social setting, could you not just make your own decisions? Yeah, you could. But I never thought about it in that perspective of, let's just start a new party every time, because everyone's going to start a party then, because they're not going to agree on every single thing. So I suppose I never thought about it from that perspective.
By the way, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think there are 4 steps to what they describe manipulating a mammalian brain, whether it's a dog, or whether it's an elephant, or whether it's a human. And that first one is focus, which is usually achieved by some novelty. The example I like to use, if I say, hey, look, purple cow. What the fuck's a purple cow? Suddenly you snap out of your autopilot and that's it. You're in focus. 95% of our lives are estimated to be led in autopilot, and like if you're moving your toes right now, you're not thinking about it, but you probably are. They weren't still for the past 2 hours that we've been talking. That's the whole autopilot thing.
Wow.
So focus. The next one is authority. So if you want to manipulate in a a mammalian brain. You have to command authority. A dog respects authority if you show that you're an alpha, if you're stronger than them. I don't know about other animals. Humans respond well to authority if it's printed in a journal, or if you have a doctor's label on it, or if you wear a uniform.
If they perceive the authority.
If they perceive the authority. Somehow written things are perceived very very important. If things are said and suddenly if they're printed on a paper, that
people just believe it.
People just believe it more if it's written down. The third step is tribe. You want to make sure that you still fit in.
Okay, there's that acceptance.
If I'm trying to get you into a cult, and part of the cult ritual is that you need to cut out your tongue.
Good Lord.
You're like, good Lord, right? I would never do something like this. But then I tell you, Alexi, first of all, I got your attention because I'm cutting out your tongue. Second of all, I'm saying, Alexi, this has been something that is 1,000 years old. People have been doing this for generations. It should trigger your tribal cues and you should suddenly think it's less bizarre because people have been doing. You wouldn't be the first person to cut out your tongue. That should make you feel better about yourself.
And you fit in and you feel like it's more acceptable.
And now I'm giving you books and courses and lots of pages about it, and it's been published in Forbes, and that authority is being played in. And if those things fit in, the last step is emotion, which usually comes from some kind of meaning. By that, I mean, why are you going to engage in all of this? And you can play on a negative emotion, like with COVID, that's what they did. They were saying how if you go out, you will kill people, right? That gives you the emotion of fear for other people's lives. So what is it? Pity? I don't know.
So you're protecting others. So it was actually used, but for good in that sense.
Yeah. I guess. Controversial. But if I'm trying to get you into a cult, I'm giving you the ultimate end eternity of happiness. And that's the emotion I'm promising you. So just follow these things. Focus, authority, tribe, and emotion. And you will get a nation to follow you.
And the question I'm going to ask is, you're talking to me, which means your tongue is moving. So why haven't you cut out your tongue yet? So I have to listen to
Coaches don't play, Alexi.
Yeah, there we go. Do what I say, not what I do. But it's back to the topic of having the mindset that you just like it needs to agree with everything. You don't know this because you're not on Instagram, but I have the pride flag in my Instagram, on my Instagram, and I say something like, I love everyone. Now, does that mean that I need to agree with everything that the pride flag stands for? Well, I don't think so. And I can give you another example. If you like eating bell peppers, I find that disgusting. It doesn't mean that I can't love you as a human being.
Yeah.
I don't need to agree with everything you do or say, all of your tastes. So to me, the pride flag just means respecting and loving people for who they are, whatever they are. It doesn't matter if I agree with them or not. It just means that, well, I could still meet you, have a coffee with you, have a drink with you, and treat you like a human being, the same way that I would with anyone else.
Why is it that some topics are so significant for us to be of the same opinion, such as, racism being bad? It's very important for me that everybody who I talk to are not racist. But it's not very important for me if that they eat bell peppers. Why are some things, it may be a stupid question, but can we find a reason for it? Why are some opinions so significant and the others are just irrelevant?
Well, I think with such a blanket statement like racism being bad, I say that you cannot be intelligent, open-minded, and racist. Those three, cannot go together. Sorry?
Pick two of the three.
Yeah. You cannot be all three. You can pick two, but you can't pick three. You can be intelligent and racist, but you sure as hell aren't open-minded, because if you were, you wouldn't have been racist. You can be, you could be open-minded and you can still be racist because you're not smart enough to put two and two together that this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So let's paint an example. If we were to use the premises, person of race A, I'm not even going to name a race A, people of race A are stupid. that person there is race A, conclusion, therefore he is stupid. It's a valid argument in the terms of the premises support the conclusion.
Yeah.
What are we going to do to make sure we can prove it's not sound? We got to attack those premises.
Yeah.
And it's not that hard to do.
Yeah.
Is that person race A? Yes. So premise A. Well, if we can prove that there are people of that race that are intelligent, then him being that race doesn't mean that he's not intelligent.
Yeah.
I think that that was a bit of a round way to answer your question. There's two aspects. The first being that it really speaks about a lack of intelligence if you have this racism.
Right.
And for you particularly, intelligence is important. You like to be stimulated, and you like to have conversations that stimulate you.
So I guess we assess what certain opinions
are intelligent or not,
are intelligent
well thought out or not. And maybe they tell us a story of how this person thinks. But I think the second aspect is the significance that brings with it.
Yeah.
If you can share an opinion that a whole class of people are bad, stupid, or whatever you want to call them, then the past, the things that have happened in the past, the fact that you don't have sympathy for that or understanding for that, I guess it's a misalignment of values. Maybe that's the best way of putting it.
Yeah.
Because I struggle to get on with people like that, and I think that you would too.
Oh, you said you struggle to get on with people like that. In a scenario,
I see. Okay.
where you meet a Nazi, a true Nazi, wearing a Nazi thing, straight out of World War II, still wearing the hat and the stuff, speaks with a German accent. Yeah. And you get on well. You don't know that he's a Nazi.
Okay.
You speak over the phone, and you spend 3 days, and things are all well. And then you meet up, and you see that he's a fucking Nazi.
Yeah.
For me, it changes everything, right? Everything in my body is like, well, I can't be friends with this person. I just am not allowed to do this. But what's the logical reasoning behind it? Like, obviously, I don't stand for everything that he stands for. But then, if I want to go play golf, and we are here on a golf field, and we want to talk about psychology or sports, psychology is a bad example, sports and relationships. Because he's a romantic Nazi.
Okay.
Is it wrong?
Are you more concerned about how you come across to other people who may see you?
Let's say I don't care. Because I think that's a big part of it, right? Let's see.
Significantly.
Nobody's going to find out.
I definitely don't think it's wrong. So there's two aspects here. The first is similar to a romantic partner. You're not going to agree with all the values of your friends, and that's okay. I suppose, provided you can still get as much as you want out of your friends, whether that be quality time, whether it be fun times, whether it be support, alignment of values, whatever it may be, you're allowed to define those limits. But the second thing is that, like, if I met this Nazi, my curiosity would be significantly, it would rise.
Yeah.
I would want to sit down and have a coffee and say, I want to pick your brain. Why? Because I want to understand how you got to that conclusion. Not because I want to prove it wrong to him or her. Because some people who have such strong opinions are generally so narrow-minded and so unwilling to entertain any other considerations that you're not going to change them out. But I actually am so curious to know how they got there. And then start to question and play around. And generally, they get very frustrated.
Yeah, of course.
I've had conversations with extremely racist people who will change their premise routinely because I can prove it wrong.
Well, people don't like being wrong. They really don't like being wrong.
That's very powerful. You're right. It's like the classic example of you're at a restaurant and the waiter serves a steak and the customer asked for it rare, and the customer cuts it open and the steak is rare. But the customer says, this is medium. I want it rare. And the waiter says, well, it is rare. Customer's not going to accept that. And the manager with the soft skills training comes along and says, I'm so sorry, you're right, and brings them another steak that's cooked exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Or, as my father once did when he owned restaurants, took the same steak, put it on a different plate, put it with a fresh sauce and chips and garnish and whatever, and the customer was like, this is rare.
This is rare.
See? It's not about being, it's about being right.
I've seen the funniest video that my partner showed me. It was this husband and wife, and you could see there was some tension between them. And the wife was picking the fruit, and she was smelling them. And when she liked the way they smelled, she put them in her basket. And the ones that she didn't like, she would put back on the shelf.
Oh, okay.
And the husband was next to her, and he gave her fruit. She smelled it, and she put it away. He gave her another fruit. She went, and she put it back away. And then the husband, without the wife noticing, takes a fruit out of the wife's basket as she's picking other fruits, gives her that fruit. She smells it, and she goes, "Oh, awful," and puts it back.
100%. But he could never tell her that.
No. That would destroy them, right? And so going back to Nazis,
Good Lord.
I think we're very similar in this case, me and you. That I would be very curious to have a conversation and pick the person's brain and see how they got there. It's all about seeing the world from this different lens. I definitely don't agree with it. Now, a very controversial statement. Do I think they're 100% evil? No.
No one is.
No one is. Does that mean something about that they're going to say is going to make 5% sense? Probably. And I'm going to try not to disregard it. I'm going to be very curious in it. And I'm not going to take up the whole opinion, but I think I'm going to try to understand where all that comes from.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely curious.
Yeah.
And me and you are similar in that.
I remember being at school, and I think it was school, university, and being taught to be open-minded, and said, okay, let's say Hitler, for example, is he 100% wrong or bad? Is anyone? There were some good things about him, which I'm going to put in quotation marks. For example, excellent leader, knew how to manipulate people. These are, I don't know if you would define these as good, but they were definitely strengths for his career choice of trying to be a top politician or whatever he was at that time. Did he use them for good reasons? No. But no one is inherently good or inherently bad. I think that we're all just on a spectrum.
Definitely.
We go up and down.
Thank you for coming on the show. This has been so wonderful. You're such a great person, and we're...
It's a pleasure. I'm stimulated so much that I've been needing to pee for like an hour. But I'm just sitting here like
they say it takes a bladder of a podcaster.
Oh, really? Is that something
specifically defining?
Did you just make that up now? Or?
No. It's Chris Williamson is one of I think he's the biggest podcaster here in the UK, and that's what he refers it to. And that he's got a plan of a podcaster. It takes ages. Well, by the way, we can't. I would love to have you back on the show, and I would love to continue to talk about all sorts of things.
Yeah, I haven't even looked at my notes yet. That's what's so funny.
Oh my God.
We've just been chatting a lot, so that's very cool.
Well, I have a question. Do you want to take a break and go on for another half an hour and maybe discuss some other things that you've got on your phone?
Cool. Yeah, you push pause and I'll go pee.
Excellent. We'll be right back.
Hello.
How are you doing, Alexi?
It was a good pee break, well needed.
Can you imagine? We've been talking for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, the time just flies. I had no idea. Although my bladder made me feel it a little bit.
They say if you want to get to the juicy part of a podcast, you should skip to the 2-hour mark. So any podcast that is shorter than 2 hours, probably not worth listening to anyway.
Unless they have 1 or 2 drinks before, and then do you think the juiciness just comes out?
Oh, a topic I want to bring up is, you know how they say, and this goes more into neuropsychology, which we briefly touched on. We often say that if a person is feeling bad about themselves or is a little bit depressed or is generally struggling with low self-esteem, the whole narrative of, just be happy, doesn't work. At least in the past 10 years, the narrative has always been in the direction that depression is real. It's more understood now. Just being happy doesn't work. So that is 100% true, in my opinion. What is very interesting that I discovered recently is the way that your muscles work when you exercise. And if you exercise a certain muscle, it becomes bigger. In a similar pattern, your brain solidifies the pathways that you choose to take based on their frequency.
Okay.
And this is how antidepressants work. Antidepressants give you like a more, I think they boost your dopamine and serotonin, so you tend to think more positively, which means it solidifies your positive thinking neural pathways. Now, the moment that you get off antidepressants, why are you suddenly not depressed again? Well, the explanation that I understand is that now your brain has exercised the positive thinking patterns and has created certain habits. So whenever you encounter a situation after being on antidepressants for a long enough period of time, the same way how if you don't use a muscle for a long time, it atrophies. Atrophies? How do you say it?
I don't know, actually. I'm sorry.
It becomes small and insignificant. And the same way you no longer resort to thinking negatively about things. And since you've been thinking positively all so much, that's where your brain goes, even though you're off antidepressants. So this leads me to a funny conclusion that just be happy, actually.
Just be happy and then...
somehow has a way of being scientifically true.
The topic of mental health is so difficult because so many people have such strong opinions over it. Like, as you say, just be happy to someone who is depressed doesn't work. And you would not say that to someone who is dying of some health condition. You wouldn't
Definitely
say just be healthy. But can they be viewed the same way? And that's a tough question. Like, I definitely am not a doctor or any medical expert, so I don't know the answer to that. You said that when you take antidepressants, that it essentially establishes or reestablishes those neural pathways so that you can come off them and your mind has built those habits and you can you say happy habits? Is that true though? Is that really how it works?
So imagine you walk into a dark room.
Mm-hmm.
Different people react to that differently. Some people think, I'm trying to think what was the example. Some people think that darkness is an inconvenience, while others think that there could be somebody who will murder them in this darkness.
Okay.
Even though it's the same dark room.
Mm-hmm. Different perceptions.
Yes. So what antidepressants do is because you have an elevated level of dopamine, you're less likely to think that there's a murder. And you're more likely to think, oh no, it's dark. That is, it's a less extreme version of the bad. While somebody who is already dealing with some sort of past trauma or any other difficulties in life is more likely to think that this dark room is as bad as it gets.
Okay, like I understand you. I don't know if that's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
But if we assume that is how it works, then what is wrong with everyone taking antidepressants for a period of time? Because if we go on that assumption and everyone did, then surely whatever state everyone is in or anyone is in, they will get to a happier state. Their minds will establish those neural pathways. And thereafter, once you go off, they will just be happier beings. Now, in my completely limited biological mind, I don't think that it works like that. And if it doesn't work like that,
right.
I don't think it's going to work with the same for the case of the people who are depressed to start off with, unless there's a baseline that you can go up to or down to, depending on where you are.
It could be that if you fall down from the baseline, this method will help you regain that baseline. But taking antidepressants if you're at that baseline won't really elevate your state much.
Would it have a bad impact? So would there be a negative effect?
I don't know. Well, all medicines seem to have some kind of side effects that we just don't know about. Like a third of FDA-approved drugs get pulled out within 10 years because 5 years down the line, they found out, actually, we haven't tested if you mix this drug with your common antibiotics, it hits your kneecaps. It's so random. Nobody will ever test for it, but you figure it out as people use it for 5 years. So it seems like most medicines, especially if they're serious, have something to do. We just haven't figured out what. Obviously, some more serious than the other. The takeaway here, for me, actually, is the whole positive thinking is in some way quite important.
Okay.
It seems like if we're at a level where we're able to control our mind, which let's say is the baseline, we can change a lot about how we feel within ourselves. I think me and you talked about it earlier. If a person is trying to take things more... it was that example where 3 businessmen
Yes.
all lost a bunch of money. 2 of them are really mad, the other one not. The exact thing happened to them, but they just react differently to it.
Which is a
How
choice.
much do you think we have? And is it important to focus on how we react to things?
Ooh.
Because from one side, it's valid. If you feel a certain way, you feel a certain way. And there's not always something that you can do to completely go 180 and feel from being, irritated to being fine, from being unhappy to being happy. But how important is it to work on that 20% to get you closer to the opposite?
Or how much control do we have
Or
over
how
our
much control.
happiness?
Or
Is that
that.
essentially, I think it sounds like that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
I think that we have a lot more control than we admit or than we know. And I will give examples. We cannot control significant events such as someone dying, things like that. We can't control. We can control going through breakups. If, for example, we were with the person we thought we should be with, we could control that to an extent. We could be the best version of ourselves, but still, it's an event that's largely uncontrollable. But these are not very common events. The common events that upset you, well, being late for work or being irritated in any day-to-day life activity, we can control not necessarily the activities, but our reactions to them.
Yeah.
If we give our minds a chance. And I think that maybe I told you this example, but I'll say it in the mic. I was sitting outside Battersea Power Station about perhaps 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago. And next thing I got slapped in the face. And I was like, what? And my reaction was not positive. Until I turn around and I realize that there's a young toddler who's clearly maybe learning to walk or whatever is the reason. He is a child, a toddler. He's innocent. And suddenly my reaction changed to heartwarming and very happy and like, hit me again if you want to, please. Now, that's a very clear-cut example. And other examples are not so easy. But the point being, had I left before turning around, I would have been angry. Had I not given myself the chance to understand how we got there, I would never have given myself the chance to be happier, to process my emotions, or to prove wrong my emotions to myself. Now, what I mean by that is, I was angry because I thought I was hit in the face, which came from someone's deliberate act. But that was wrong.
Or even accident act that is just rude if you are an adult and not taking caution when you're walking on the street.
Fair, understand you. I don't share that opinion because when someone makes a mistake, I never react with anger. I just understand.
That's so great. Even if you're slapped in the face sitting next to Battersea Park.
Well, how would that happen if someone did it by mistake and they were just accidentally pointing? Yeah, that's funny. Like I would think it was hilarious.
Actually, that shows real growth of character because I have to be honest with you. I don't want to lie to you. If I'm sitting by Battersea Park and some clumsy ass is swinging their arms around and is not keeping their distance and smacks me across their face, I'm not going to fight them, but I am not going to give them the attitude that you're suggesting, which I should. Yeah. It's what the bigger person does. But it's beautiful that you did.
It was also a decision to be the guy who's just happy and laugh at things. And to an extent, it was faking in the beginning, but I just wanted to be that person. I discovered my inner child again. So it is. I do find those situations very funny. But on Saturday, I'll give you an example. I accidentally hit my partner in the face. Now, how did I do that? We were doing karaoke, and she was singing. She had the mic. Then it was my verse, so I took the mic, and I was like, maybe I was down on a knee, and then it became her verse, and she brought her head to the mic, but I didn't see that. I put the mic to her head. And of course, essentially, I hit her in the lip.
Oh my God.
And I felt horrendous, and I still knew. But she thought it was like she was in pain. Yeah. It was sore, but she didn't. She had no negative emotions towards me. She knew it was an honest mistake. And I think she's been like, she just knows how clumsy I am. So it's something that she's just come to accept and embrace, that I am this person who is clumsy and sometimes does stupid things. And yeah, if you're in a romantic relationship with someone who you believe intends to hurt you, well, then I think you should leave that relationship.
Yes.
And if you don't leave the relationship, then we can accept that the person doesn't intend to hurt you. And if we can accept the person doesn't intend to hurt you, then surely you should react like they just made a mistake. And if you do,
situations like these also prove strengths in a relationship. Remember before when I said about the broken glass example? I feel like if there was really some friction or tension between you and your partner, partners, and then you smack her in the face with a metal microphone, that reaction could have been different.
I see.
And again, it's not the hitting that is the issue, but it's, and definitely not the intent, but it's, I guess, the overall mood of the relationship that seems to play a role in it. But the fact that, you were, well, I guess there was not much control that you had in the situation, but Kate reacted almost finding it funny, which is what she said, right? She found it funny.
Yes. I mean, she was just like, she was laughing, but she was in pain, but she was laughing.
Yeah.
It was funny for her, and everyone saw it was a mistake. It didn't stop me from feeling bad. But actually, that's something that I've learned in my time dating. I'm going to sound like some sort of serial dater, but because I never have this assumption that a person goes out to hurt you, I never give any attention to someone's intention. And that's actually a very, very big deal.
Say that again.
So, because I naturally assume that someone doesn't intend to hurt me,
right? I
never give attention to their intention. And what I mean by that is, if you, let's say, for example, you knock over my cup of tea.
Right.
Now, I might be upset that I no longer have a cup of tea, but I'm not upset that you did it on purpose, because I know you didn't. But if I don't show that, if I don't make you know that I don't think that this was your intention, if I give you the assurance that I know your intention was to give me love, sometimes people try and show care, but it comes across in a way that really irritates that
almost
person.
Condescending, right?
It could be condescending, or it could be, I had set the kettle on with my automatic plug and it was going to go off, and my tea was going to be ready perfectly when I wake up in the morning. And when I wake up in the morning, I realize that my partner has used the kettle and messed with the plug, and she tried to make me a cup of tea, but she hasn't done it properly, and she says something like, I was just trying to help you. I know that that's her intention, but if I don't show her that, then it makes her a little bit upset. So in that situation, I should probably say something like, I know your intention was good. The outcome, however, wasn't. So
So fuck you.
Definitely not. So this is how it would work for me better going forwards. Whereas in the past, I've never let her know that I knew her intention was good. So another relationship learning I've taken out of my relationship.
Before we jump off, I have a funny story to share with you. That some things you would have never remembered unless a very specific thing triggered that memory.
Yes.
And that's one of those cases. I must have been like year 7. And
did you say you are 7 or year 7?
Year 7.
So you are, how old are you there? 12, 13?
Right. So 7 plus 6, 13?
13, okay.
And there was a very pretty girl who I was friends with. And she was 16. Big age difference. We were just friends. And I kicked a ball. And my shoe flew off my foot, hitting her in the nose.
Oh, good Lord.
And she started to bleed.
Oh, lovely.
And I was feeling so miserable.
Was you playing that game, I Got Your Nose? Or
What is that game?
Sorry, go on, shame.
Well, no, tell me what that game is. I must know now.
No, it's just what you do with the children. I got your nose. You pretend you have the it's
I got
stupid
it.
Joke.
And she was taking it like a champ. She was like, it's exactly how you're saying. She clearly could see that it was an accident, because I could do it 100 times with intent, and I would not be able, because she was pretty far away as well. I hit a football, and then my shoe flew precisely at her, in her nose, making her nose bleed. And I felt so horrible about it.
Shame.
And now I do again. I'm sorry, Alexandra.
Alexandra. And you thought about that because I told you the story of that?
Hope she's doing well.
I would love if she follows you and just comments me like, forgive you, Maxime.
That's so funny. Also, yeah. No. Alexi, thank you so much for being on the show. I really hope you can come back. I hope
Thank
you had
you
a
very
great
much.
time.
I would like to have a glass of wine with you the next time we do this and see what happens then.
We can certainly do that.
Yeah.
Anything that you want to say before we hop off? Is there anything? I know you're an accountant. Do you do any private services? Anything you want to plug? Any final words you want to end
Follow
with?
me on Instagram, any of that stuff.
Any of that stuff?
No, definitely not. I've just been enjoying this, so thank you. And I look forward to the next time. And I look forward to hearing the rest of your podcasts. I think you're very good at this. So
Thank you, Alexi. Can't wait to have you back. All right. Bye, everyone.
Cheers.